Okay. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining on a Friday. I know we're all super busy right now, but this is our CSUF Study Abroad orientation for accepted students. So congratulations, everyone, for being accepted either to a CSUF exchange program, a CSUIP program, or a non-CSUF program. So I know there's a lot, even just to get to this point, right? You already did so much, but I know there's still way more. And at the end of this presentation, I really hope that you walk away at least with a little bit more reassurance, more guidance on what your next steps are. So before we get started, just because of the nature of this presentation, there's so much information and um, a heads up that it's very text heavy for the purpose that you can have these slides afterwards as a resource. So you'll all have access to the deck, to the recording. And for the people that are not able to be here on the live session, the recording will be posted to your CSUF Study Abroad application as an assessment. So for those of you that are here, you'll still have access to it, but you won't be required to complete the assessment. You'll have a question that'll ask you, did you attend the live session? If you select yes, then you won't have to complete the assessment. For those that are not attending the live session, you'll have a few questions to answer after you view the recording. And then we will have time at the very end for questions. So in the meantime, if you want to go ahead and drop them in the chat so that you don't forget them, that's totally okay. I'll make sure to come back to them at the end of the presentation. So first off, congrats everybody, you did it. Thank you so much for considering study abroad. We all know this is not a simple journey to take on, but it is one that can be truly life-changing. So you are part of a very small group of college students who take this step, and you should be very proud of yourself. There is a study by UC Merced that shows that 6% of US college students study abroad, so that is a very small percentage. We wish it was larger, right? But then that also shows really truly how unique you are, and you've chosen to participate in this impactful experience. So from the start, we want to congratulate you for taking this step, and we're here to provide you with guidance. So before we get started, just a reminder of who our team is. This is really the team that is here to support you every step of the way. Cherie Merrill, she is our associate director, also board advisor if you ever decide to apply for that scholarship or fellowship, um, and Fulbright advisor. And then my colleague Ketley, she is our study abroad lead. So she works mostly with our faculty-led programs. Some of you have already participated on those, or you will be soon. But she works very closely with faculty who are interested in taking students abroad. And then myself, my name is Abby Segura, and I will be your study abroad advisor throughout this process. I'm also the Gilman advisor, so all of you that applied, I certified your applications. And yeah, so we're a small team, but we have support from Global Titan ambassadors as well. So you probably seen them around, met them at the info sessions, but just wanted to let you know that they are still a resource for you, especially now that you've been accepted to a program. If you know that any of these advice ambassadors have been on the program that you've been accepted to, we're more than happy to connect you with them. They're always really excited to talk more about their experiences abroad, give you tips, share more about like how they navigated this entire process. And then always reminding you that we do have our space in PLN 120. So in PLN 120, you're welcome to stop by if you ever need a place to study. Anytime we host any of our events, this is usually where they take place. And um, actually next week, right, our meet and greet will be in there. So please feel free to join to use this space just like you would any other study spaces on campus. And with that, a reminder that on Tuesday, March 24th, we will be hosting a very casual meet and greet where you can all meet each other. That's the goal here, that you can all start connecting, being a resource for each other. We've also invited students that are currently at CSUF from some of the programs that you'll be attending. So I really hope a few of them do come out so that you could connect with them and maybe even meet up with them when you're abroad. So it is a great chance for you all to connect in person and then maybe establish another platform of communication while you're there, like a group chat or whatever works best for you. But it'll be very casual. You don't have to stay the whole time. If you can only drop in for a few minutes, that's totally fine. But this will just be another place for you to be able to connect with the others going either on the same program as you, same country. All of that will be very helpful. And then we did provide you with these dates on your acceptance email, but again, just make sure you're marking your calendar, setting up reminders. The next important date that we have is next week, right? March 24th, where it's the meet and greet from 2 to 3 in PLN 120. And then we do have our virtual pre-departure orientation. So that is mandatory for all CSUF study abroad students. And that is in addition to the CSUIP pre-departure orientation for those of you that were accepted to CSUIP programs. Okay. So through this process, you'll learn that you're navigating requirements for multiple departments. So we'll talk more about that later. But our virtual pre-departure orientation will be on May 1st from 10 to 12. It'll also be on Zoom. It will be recorded, and everybody is required to attend or watch the recording. And then we will have a global Titan end of the semester celebration on May 6th. This is again very casual, but it is a space for us to celebrate your achievements. You're going abroad. We're going to be celebrating international students who are completing their time here at Cal State Fullerton. We're even celebrating students that have recently come back from abroad. So please join us if you can. Again, drop in anytime from 1 to 3 in PLN 120. And those of you that were accepted to CSUIP, I believe your pre-departure is on the same day as ours, but it's later. So just make sure that you're keeping track of whatever their pre-departure dates are, whatever deadlines they have assigned for you as well. And it might seem like, what, we're having an orientation today, and then we're having another one in May. So we just wanted to list out here the main differences, because you'll learn very quickly that this is a very extensive process. Our orientation today is mainly to talk about what your next steps are now that you've been accepted. So we're going to go over expectations, timelines, the host application process, the visa, what is a placeholder class, tuition, flights, what support is out there for you. In May, we're going to come back together, and then that is going to be more conversation of, okay, now that you've done all those things, these are the final things you need to make sure you're prepared before you travel. So, arrival information, a little bit of discussion on culture shock, what to pack, travel tips, everyday logistics, uh, a lot of student conduct and risk management conversation, health insurance stuff. All of that will be covered at our May 1st meeting. So, to give you a visual of where we're at right now, right? So, um, we're all right here, pre-departure phase. So you've been accepted to your program, and you'll see that the gains come really quickly, right? The gains of your study abroad experience start happening now. So a lot of times our students come in thinking, oh, like the impact is going to be when I'm in Paris, eating a croissant, right? Your experiences are for like having a quality experience abroad start as of now. And it is really key to have realistic expectations, right? The students that do this are you typically in a better position to navigate study abroad. And if you are not there yet, it's totally okay. Trust me, you'll build these skills through the process. Um, resiliency, being patient. A lot of you have already experienced that, right? I'm the only study abroad advisor, so I can't get back to you immediately, or um, you'll be eventually working with the host university, and you'll learn very quickly that other countries work on a completely different time urgency clock, right? For I feel like here in the US, everything is urgent, and a lot of our partners will even tell you, "Oh, we're not ready for that. Come visit us in a few months," or "Oh, that information we'll let you know when it's ready in a few months, right? It's very normal and you learn very quickly, okay, you just have to respect those timelines. Um, it's going to be key to be adaptable while you're abroad, but you're already going to start practicing that now as you prepare for your departure. Navigating the visa process, right? You're already going to be interacting with the consulate at that phase, so already practicing these skills is going to just make you a better study abroad student. Being organized, timely, diligent, all of that will just help you be in a better position to navigate study abroad, and you'll have many opportunities to develop these skills even further before you depart. So the pre-departure phase consists of quite a bit. There's a lot of paperwork. It's like you got to get all this work done before you get to the fun part, right? So the host application, the visa, there is a lot. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, that is because there is a lot. And we will try to break it down as best as possible. There's multiple deadlines. So again, being very organized is going to be key here because you're going to be hearing from multiple departments. For example, CSUF Study Abroad will be emailing you. The host university will be emailing you. If you were accepted to a CSUIP program, you'll be hearing from CSUIP. Um, for those of you accepted to non-CSUF programs, your providers will be reaching out to you, right? So you're really communicating with multiple departments, and it's really important to be organized in this process. Um, you're already navigating cultural differences, like I mentioned, right? Time, processing, customer service. So already interacting, even if it's online, right? Interacting with that host university, study abroad office, um, and eventually the consulate for your visa. And like I said, working with lots of different people. So our team, the chancellor's office for those of you accepted to CSUIP, your host university, providers, government officials. So there's a lot that goes into this process. And I included my dear friend Garfield here, because if you're all aware, Garfield loves that chill, relaxed life, and who doesn't, right? But if that's what you're all about, then perhaps study abroad is not the best option for you because, as we're being warned right now, a lot goes into it, right? So, um, from the beginning, we're very transparent. A lot is going to be required for you to prepare for your study abroad experience, but we're here to support you through it. So I hope I'm not scaring you away, right, with all these to-do items. It really is worth it in the end. And one example here is someone that wrote a recommendation letter for one of our students once. This quote like really just helps um, really paint the picture of like how study abroad can be so impactful. So the quote says, as someone who studied abroad when I was their age, one must be a critical thinker, have humility, and have the ability to work independently. Indeed, those who study abroad tend to understand that one's education does not end in the classroom, but is a lifelong process. So, like just seeing this example here of a faculty that they studied abroad at some point and they truly believe in the power and the impact of study abroad, right? So, yes, right now it seems like busy. It's all like paperwork and processing, but eventually you will have a lot that comes from this experience. And going back right to that feeling of anxiety and being overwhelmed, it is totally like okay to feel that way because here at Cal State Fullerton, we're always very aware and completely acknowledge that our students wear multiple hats. we know that you're not just a CSUF student. You have personal obligations. A lot of you have work. Um, and now you've added study abroad to this, right? So a whole nother layer to it. And through that, now you're going to be interacting with the host university abroad, with either CSUIP or your provider. So we're very aware that you're wearing multiple hats, you have multiple responsibilities. And through this process, right, you'll see how a lot of those skills will also be beneficial to you in navigating the study abroad experience. And there is a lot of support. So you're not in this by yourself. Please, please always reach out if you have any questions, concerns. Don't ever try to like tackle if you feel stuck, you're, you know, always like encountering the same challenge and you can't find a solution. Please reach out to us. Um, I have had students where, for example, something like a transfer credit approval, right? It's not until like months after they come back that they tell me, "Oh, I never found out who to contact for that course approval. I really wish they would have come to me early, right? And we could have looked into it, or maybe like I had an answer for them." So, you're better off like seeking assistance through all these different support systems that you have than trying to tackle it on your own. So just a reminder that you have access to our team. You have access to the teams on your specific programs with CSUIP. I know that they are so busy because they serve the entire CSU system, but they do have two additional advisors that you could reach out to. They have virtual drop-in advising as well, in addition to advising with me. Your exchange host universities, you'll eventually have access to emailing them directly. Use that to your advantage. Providers, like you're paying a study abroad fee to your provider so that they can provide you those services. So take advantage of that. Um, you have access to the Global Titan ambassadors. We can always connect you with them. You have each other. So I try my best to connect all of you, whether it's via Discord, which we'll talk more about in a bit, the meet and greet. I'll eventually send a roster where you could email each other. But I really try my best to connect you all to each other because you are all going through the similar process and you can all be resources for each other. And even like attending our study abroad events, right? So the meet and greet, the end of the semester celebration, there's a lot of connections you can make there that can really be a good resource for you. So with Discord, most of you should have had access to your respective Discord, um, according to your country and program type, after you commit in our CSUF study abroad application. If for whatever reason you don't see it, perhaps it hasn't been updated, that's an issue on our end. So instead, what I'll be doing in the coming days is I'll just be reviewing that and sending out one mass email, inviting all of you to your respective Discord channels, I believe is what you call them. And you can join there. The great thing about those Discords is that you have study abroad alumni already in them. So if you have a question, a lot of times they'll jump in and answer based on their experiences. Or what I see most of the time happening is that students who are accepted to the same cycle end up creating maybe a group chat on Instagram or just whatever you prefer, but at least you have a starting point to connect with each other on here. Okay. So we want to give you a visual of the timeline. I know I've already received a lot of questions of when is this happening? When is that happening? When should I do this? So here's a timeline to hopefully give you that visual and help you prepare for this. So currently, you're all in the acceptance phase, the very start. And very soon, for those of you accepted to CSUF exchange programs, our team will be nominating you to your respective host university. And CSUIP has probably already started that process or will be soon. Shortly after that, you'll have access to your host application. Just a reminder, this doesn't apply to provider non-CSUF programs. The host application process, it's going to be different for every program. So we'll be sending you instructions for your specific program. CSUIP will be sending you that information. Um, and once you submit your host application, it is a bit of a waiting period um, until we receive a formal acceptance from your host university. So I'm already getting questions about when is my housing, how do I book housing? When is my orientation date abroad? All of that information will be given to you once you receive that formal acceptance from the host university. So think of it, this host application process is really a formality. A lot of students get nervous, like, oh, what if they decline me? What if I've never seen that. If it were to happen, it would probably be more of like a logistical situation, like, oh, the students, I don't know, maybe like they can't, it's not possible for them to get a visa due to their passport scenario, or because they've already trusted that CSUIP and CSUF Study Abroad nominated you based on their requirements. So we've already taken care of that. Um, the main purpose of this host application is for the host universities to receive all the information they need to include you in their system, to provide you with formal acceptance letters that you'll eventually need for your visa appointments. Um, Once you finally hear from them with that formal acceptance email, I like to call it like an acceptance package. That is usually where you'll get an acceptance letter that you need for your visa appointment. That's probably where you'll get more information on course registration, on housing, if they offer housing, right? So a lot of that information will come through the acceptance, the official acceptance from the host university. After you have those visa documents that the host university will provide you with, you're more than ready to go ahead and apply for your visa, which we'll talk a bit more about it later on. You could purchase flights, right? Because you know when your orientation or arrival dates or move-in dates are. Um, when you book your flight, we typically recommend after your visa, but we also understand that sometimes it is required for a visa appointment. So it just depends on the visa you're applying for. You have the option to meet with me before you depart in order to kind of just like make sure, run through everything, make sure everything's okay. After that, you will also receive travel health insurance either from CSUIP or from Cal State Fullerton. So all of that will be processed on your behalf. Um, then we'll be placing you in a placeholder class. So coding you in a placeholder course, that'll pretty much, what it does is it keeps you as an active CSUF student, ensuring that your financial aid, that your registration, all of that works as usual. And financial aid will be dispersed 10 days before your semester starts. Orientation at your host university will happen once you arrive and your program starts. So as you can see, a lot is going on here, and we're barely at the start of this. So save this just to have a visual of what's to come. And yeah, so the next big part of this is the host application. So what is the host university application? This applies to CSUIP and CSUF Exchange. So shortly after we send the formal nomination to our partners, we will also send you instructions from the host university to complete their host application. So this application, it's very different for each school. So nobody has the same application. We'll send you the specific instructions for it. And deadlines are super important here because our partners have their own designated deadlines for their applications. We'll make sure you're aware of what those deadlines are. But again, that's another thing to keep track of, right? And when you are completing the host application, you might feel like, well, I'm providing the same information again. Unfortunately, from the beginning, we've already set this expectation that with these programs, this is the second application you have to complete. So um, for example, be prepared to provide a recommendation letter, which for those of you that did CSUF Exchange, we'll very soon will be uploading those recommendation letters that you submitted as part of your initial application so that you have access to them. And you still have to double check if they meet the requirements for the host university, if they're the correct format. If they are, great. You don't have to ask for another recommendation. If not, then be prepared to check in with that professor again and ask for another recommendation letter. You should also be prepared to have to most likely submit an official copy of your transcript through to the host application. Um, and again, please make sure that the transcript gets sent directly to the university and not to me. Every cycle I have transcripts be sent to me. They have to be sent to the host university. Another common thing you may be asked for are bank statements showing that you have sufficient funding to be there for the semester or the year that you've been accepted. Um, so that is a very normal practice. It's mainly related to like visa requirements, right? And if you're depending on financial aid to cover or most of the expenses while you're abroad, financial aid can provide you with a support letter that'll show the estimated breakdown for your time abroad. So, in addition to whatever bank statements you may have. And this is just a short preview of what to expect in the host university application. There's way more to it, but these are the common things that we've seen host applications require. So with the host university application, and I think any study abroad communication, please make sure you're checking your email. Anytime our office sends information to you, it's always going to be to your CSUF email address. So make sure you're regularly checking that. Um, you may want to double check your junk folders in case our hosts uh, partners have sent any emails that were for whatever reason filed there. But this process is really going to require that you're constantly checking your email. If I were a student, I would create a folder for study abroad and file all my study abroad specific emails there. Um, but please make sure you're checking that CSUF email address. Um, we already covered this, but shortly after we nominate you, we'll send you the instructions for your host university. Um, some programs like Korea University, for example, they require a Gmail address. So for those of you accepted to Korea University, I'll be reaching out to you personally. And a reminder that CSUIP students, all host application details will be sent to you by the CSUIP team, not our office. Um, For CSUF exchange programs, at least, we allow students to communicate directly with the host partner. So once I give you the information, here's your host application, here's the instructions they gave us. Um, Most of the time, you'll have access to their email through their application process. I am not an expert in their host application, so if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to email them directly with questions. And they, again, be like patient with their response timeline, but they are there to help support you through that process as well. Reminder, transcripts, just assume that you're going to have to order official transcripts as part of your host application process. And health examination. So I do see this as something commonly required for our programs in Japan. Um, but there may be a health examination that may be required as part of your host application. So if this is the case for your host application, make sure that you are able to set up an appointment as soon as possible. Again, you'll get all of those instructions once we send you the host information details, the host application details. Um, but if for whatever reason you're not able to find a doctor's appointment, before the application deadline, please let me know. And we can always reach out to our partners, explain, and they're typically very flexible with that. Um, but again, communication is key here. So if you're having that issue, let us know. Um, it's not required for all programs, but a few, yes. So be prepared for that. So visa support. So before we get to the visa, passports. So if you don't have a passport yet, or if your passport is expired, to my knowledge, all the programs that students are going to require a passport. So if you are in that, if you need a passport or need to renew, please start that process now. Um, I would hate for you to be in a position where it's time for you to depart and your passport hasn't arrived or there's issues with the application process, right? So let's get that out of the way now. Um, Moving on to visa support. So that is another big question here, right? How can I process my visa now? How do I do it? So with the visa process, that is a process that is managed by all of you, the students. So unfortunately, our office does not have a designated like visa unit that can support you through this process. And we're also not immigration experts, right? So even like uh, with policy and we have to comply, we don't have the expertise to advise you on the visa process. So this does require that you go ahead, do your research, look at the consulates to see what the requirements are for student visas. Again, a lot of that information will also be provided to you through the host university application, like your acceptance letter, certificate of admission is what others call it. So please be aware that you need to take that initiative of looking into what the requirements are. We can guide you to certain websites, visa guides that we found. We'll do that, but at the end of the day, it is really up to the student to take that initiative and do that research. Um, Host programs tell you what to do. They may defer to what governments and agency states, consulates. So that's what I mean by you can get a little bit more advice through the host application. Um, Research your process now for your visa, even if you can't apply yet. So this is what I mean by taking initiative, right? You can already start researching what the process is going to be. Maybe already start compiling what documents you do have so that once you get that acceptance letter from your university abroad, you're ready to go. And be aware that there's different requirements for different nationalities, uh, dual citi different dual citizens, right? So please don't assume that because you have a friend going to the same location, oh, they didn't need a visa, neither do I. We never know. They might be in a completely different scenario. Maybe it's because they have dual citizenship in South Korea and that's why they don't need the visa, but you don't have dual citizenship in Korea, right? So your requirements are going to be different. Um, just a heads up, we are aware that some of the more challenging locations can be France, Spain, Italy, and the UK. So, more the reason to already start doing your research as early as possible on what you're going to have to do. Appointments. So, I mean, the common thing with consulates is that appointments tend to be a challenge. So, just always keep checking many times a day at different times each day. But also, if you are able to get an appointment and and it's really early or coming up pretty soon, but you don't have your formal acceptance letter from your university abroad, then you're not quite ready yet for that visa appointment, right? So, that's the part where we kind of just have to trust the process. Um, Consider visa processing agencies. That is something you could look into, but it is an added fee. So if you have the funding, if you have, right, that capital to just pay somebody to do it for you, great, you could do it. But otherwise, the majority of our students are taking the initiative and doing this process on their own. Um, Another thing as part of the visa process is going to be, like I mentioned earlier, financial documents. So usually you are required to demonstrate that you have a specific amount of funding that really just shows that you are able to support yourself while you're there. So that's usually a combination of bank statements, formal letters of support from the financial aid office. If you are awarded a scholarship like the Gilman, the Freeman, um, you can also receive some type of letter of support to prove that you're using those funds to help pay for your time abroad. And verify with your host institution how this information should be sent. So all of that will be communicated to you through your host university application process. For some visa appointments, you may need to do biometrics, so fingerprints, photos, right? So it varies by country. So again, really important that you already start doing your research now. Okay, so with that, we're moving on to just a quick comment about customer service. So I think one thing that comes really quickly becomes apparent to our students is that in a lot of our partner universities, customer service is more transactional. Whereas here at Cal State Fullerton, it's all about the transformational, right? We're all about student success. Everything is student oriented. There's all these departments on campus that are there to guide you, to support you. Faculty will sometimes even give you access to like their personal phone, email, office hours, right? There's so many services, which is what makes this place so great. But very quickly, we learned that in a lot of our host institutions, it's more about the transactional and it's very independent based, right? So that'll be something that you may already encounter through the host university application process. Um, and if that happens, again, like let's take it as a learning experience. Let's learn to become adaptable to whatever their timelines are, whatever their processes are. Um, but it is a common thing that our students experience. So we just wanted to put this out there from the beginning. And again, we'll always be happy to jump in and help. So just communicate with us. Okay, let me just take some water. So now that you've been accepted, um, there is the CSUF study abroad application. So, in your formal acceptance email from the CSUF study abroad office, you all received some version of that email. You all were required to commit to the program in our system, our application system. So, our office requires that you commit to your program by March 22nd so that you have access to the post-decision application phase. So after you click that commit button in your CSUF study abroad application, you will have access to a whole new series of questionnaires, um, signature documents, and pre-departure assessment videos. So please be prepared to complete those by May 1st. May 1st is our pre-departure orientation. So our goal is for you to complete as much as you can on our pre-departure application by that time so that when we meet, we're able to focus on other topics. More importantly, we want you to complete the assessment videos by May 1st. I completely understand that by May 1st, you might not have your flight itinerary yet. That's okay. Don't upload it. You might not have your updated passport. That's okay. Don't upload that. You might not know your program dates yet. That's okay. Don't complete that, right? Students tend to like get very anxious about this. Like, I don't have this information and it's gonna be May 1st. It's okay. What we want you to complete by May 1st are these items at the top: signature documents, learning content, health insurance and disability accommodations, and most importantly, those assessment videos. And this goes for everybody. The reason why is because through these items, we're ensuring that we are tracking your study abroad, that you're completing all CSUF study abroad requirements, and most importantly, that you're getting all the resources that CSUF provides to study abroad students. So this will apply to everybody going abroad. And the other thing that we highly recommend you do is that you go ahead and enroll in CSUF Fall 26 courses. This is more like a backup plan. So we don't require this as part of your application. Um, you're still going to have access to enroll in CSUF courses for Fall 26. I have no way of enforcing this, but the reason why we highly encourage that you still do this is in case something were to go wrong, in case for example, you have to cancel your program due to personal challenges, or maybe there's a hiccup with your visa, or in case there's, for whatever reason, you can't proceed with your program, then at least we know that's okay. We'll try again another time, but at least we know that for Fall 26, you're enrolled in your ideal Fall 26 course schedule. Um, let's say the majority, everything will works out great, right? Amazing, great. Our office is going to go ahead and a few weeks before your program starts, our office is going to go ahead and drop you from all of those CSUF courses and ask registration and records to enroll you in what we call a study abroad placeholder class. So at that time, pretty much what we're saying is, okay, this student is ready to go. They're going to go abroad. They're going to remain a CSUF student. Please code them in the study abroad placeholder class. So you'll be dropped from the CSUF courses that you enrolled in for fall. And this placeholder class is for full-time enrollment status. So what we mean by this is that it will ensure that you are still charged CSUF tuition because reminder, those of you doing CSUF exchange and CSUIP are paying CSUF tuition. You are not paying tuition to your host programs. So through this placeholder class, registration and records knows, okay, the student is paying CSUF tuition as usual. Financial aid knows, okay, this student's financial aid will proceed as usual. Disbursement will happen if financial aid is typically used for paying part of your tuition, that'll happen as usual. The only part that this doesn't apply to are non-CSUF programs, right? So non-CSUF programs, um, for those of you doing these programs, you are not paying tuition to Cal State Fullerton, you're paying tuition to your provider. But just know that this placeholder close course, and I usually give you a heads up before I do this because I want to make sure, okay, we're going to drop you from any fall courses you enrolled in. We're ready to go because there's no way we can undo that, right? So, um, just a heads up that this placeholder course is what maintains you active in the CSUF system. It'll also ensure that while you're abroad, you have an enrollment date, access to your time portal for spring 27 enrollment if you're doing the semester abroad. So tuition, like I said, CSUIP students, you pay the CSUF tuition rate, but CSUIP collects payment through their portal. So CSUIP will be giving you more specifics on that. Exchange students, you pay your tuition to CSUF as usual, as you normally do, same process with financial aid as well. Students doing non-CSUF provider programs, you are not paying Cal State Fullerton tuition for the semester you're abroad. You are paying tuition and fees to your provider directly. And reminder, we've already highlighted this in our advising. You can only use federal financial aid for non-CSUF programs. Um, One quick note here for those of you doing academic year programs, keep in mind that gap that you have in between semesters where you're not getting financial aid disbursements, right? You really want to make sure you're budgeting for that time that you don't have disbursements. So plan accordingly. And we're coming to the end here, but these next few slides are heavy on CSUF course equivalency. So we've already, if you've met with me, this tends to be a big part of our conversation, but if you are planning for any of your study abroad courses to count towards CSUF equivalency, you need to go through what we call the transfer credit course approval process. So the sooner you start this, the better. Now that you've been fully accepted to a program, I would say you start this process now, especially before the semester ends, because a lot of times, depending on the department, if the people in charge of reviewing courses are faculty, they're going to be away for the whole summer, right? So I would initiate this process now. And the main reason, and the reason why I would say start it now is because it'll give you more reassurance that your study abroad program is indeed a good fit, that you have the course approvals you want, that you need in advance. Um, I've had students who, because they do this process early, and then they come to find out that unfortunately, majority of their courses were not approved, they make the tough decision that perhaps this study abroad program is not a good fit, and they're able to withdraw in time. Um, why is it important that you start this now? Because approvals are only granted by CSUF colleges, right? Each department, each college has their process for routing these approvals. So, like I said, we want to make sure that um, we are as active as possible during the semester because come May, faculty are gone. And if it's one of those departments that requires faculty to review courses, we're not going to get responses. Um, And this would be something, of course, that you prioritize if you really are hoping that your classes count towards CSUF equivalency. I have a few students who have already told me, oh, no, I'm fine. I'm okay with the transfer elective units. Then you don't need to worry about this. But if you want CSUF equivalency, let's start on this now. On our website, you'll have a reminder of how trans units transfer. So you have access to this information on your CSUF study abroad application on our website, which is where this QR code will take you to. And like I said, by default, you're going to earn elective units. So if you're doing exchange, you're earning transfer elective units. If you're doing CSUIP, you're earning resident elective units. Non-CSU provider programs, transfer elective units. But if you want these courses to count for CSUF equivalency, you need to go through the transfer credit approval process. So real quick, step one, requires that you do your homework. You are the one that's required to do your best to match courses based on course description. So this is where you're comparing the CSUF catalog and the host university's catalog. We are in the process of updating our brochure so that you have access to the most updated catalogs. In some scenarios, we might not have access to it yet, but feel free to reach out to me directly if you want. If you're not able to find your university's course catalog, that's also something that you'll have access to once you have the host university application. Complete the transfer credit approval form found on your CSUF study abroad application. So again, another reason why I want to make sure you're completing our application is because you have access to all these information items, these forms. Step three, email the completed form to the appropriate CSUF department. So for example, if it's a business course, you're submitting that form to the business advising department. It's totally okay to have multiple forms because maybe you're also submitting a request for an art class. So you can submit a separate form for the art department. When you email these forms to the respective advising departments, you want to attach the course description and the course syllabus as PDFs. So just providing them with the title is not enough. You need to give them the documentation they need in order to actually evaluate the course. You should be able to download the course description from the course catalog. A lot of our partners do a good job about linking course syllabus to the course catalog. If you can't find that, reach out to us. We'll try our best to get you that information. And then finally, step four, the respective department will review your request through whatever their internal approval process is. Again, it's completely up to them, right? And it can take them, I've seen some be as quick turnaround as a few days to some that unfortunately take weeks. So it is completely up to the college. Um, and approvals are only up to the departments. Our study abroad office unfortunately has no say in that. So let's say great news, they approve your courses that you proposed. They can either sign off directly on that form or they may give you a formal email approval. Then you would upload that to your CSUF application. I know it's a lot, but on your CSUF application, there's going to be a questionnaire that says upload transfer credit approvals. Very important that you upload those approvals there because when you come back, that's where I will be going in to take a look and making sure that I report your grades to registration and records according to those approvals you received. So if you haven't seen the form, this is what the form looks like. I have a feeling I'm getting a lot of questions about this right now. And I see we're running out of time. So most likely I'll probably be doing a separate session on course approvals or a separate recording because it can be a lot. But I think the key takeaway here is that we want to start on this now. And it does take some time for you to do your research on matching courses and really studying the course catalog for the host university and CSUF. Some important notes. There is no strict deadline for on our application for you to submit these course approvals. Some of you might not even have course approvals because you're okay with just the transfer electives. No problem. But there is no strict deadline for us. But again, start as soon as possible. you might find yourself in a position where maybe there's one class that you end up taking while you're abroad and you want to request approvals for it. It's okay if you do it abroad. Like we don't have a strict deadline, but the more and more I'm seeing is that it's the more important it is for students to leave the US with as many course approvals as possible. Why? Because this ensures that, the courses you're taking on your program will count towards CSUF equivalency. Um, if you do not need CSUF course equivalency, like I said, this action item is not required for you. Some key things that I've been seeing for business courses, um, a very important thing is that unfortunately programs like WASEDA, programs like MISEFA, they offer a lot of business courses, but their courses are only worth 2 units. And meanwhile, the courses here are worth 3 units, right? So unfortunately, business is not making exceptions for that. Um, you want to ensure that the unit count is equivalent to what the CSUF course unit requirement is here. I totally understand sometimes conversions might be confusing, so that's why you should email us if you're not so sure of like, hey, I see that this course on the MISEFA catalog says it's worth 2 units. Can I just double check if that's accurate conversion to CSUF? We can help you with that. Just a heads up that if the course is worth 2 units abroad and it's worth 3 units here, unfortunately you can't count it to equate to 3 units, if that makes sense. The other thing that I'm noticing is psychology majors. If I haven't met with you yet, um, unfortunately, they have a very low transfer credit approval rate, almost zero. So unfortunately, if you are a psychology major planning to complete psychology courses abroad, I'll be very transparent, it is very unlikely they'll get approved. I would encourage you to look into fulfilling other areas, GE's electives. So, reminder, you can complete other requirements while you're abroad, not just major requirements. Minor requirements you can complete, GE's electives. But with psychology, unfortunately, I wouldn't recommend that you go abroad for a semester to complete psych courses because it's almost a zero approval rate that I'm seeing. Um, yeah, let me know if you have any questions. So sorry, we're almost at the end. Some quick tips. Treat your acceptance to your study abroad program like it's a 3 unit class. As you can see, there's a lot that goes into it. It is really going to require you to dedicate some time to doing the work. Get organized. Really practice. I think using bookmarks is going to be your best friend here. Make checklists, check deadlines, mark your calendars. Always check your CSUF email address. Focus on one thing at a time. I know we talked about a lot right now, but right now we are in that acceptance, nomination, host application phase. That's what we're focusing on. And communicate, right? So communicate effectively, appropriately, regularly. If I ever reach out to you, please respond. And I know that when you reach out to me, it may take me a few days, but trust me, like I'm trying my best to get back to everybody as the only study abroad advisor. Um, the other thing too is that if for whatever reason you decide, you know what, this is not a good fit for me, that's why I have this orientation as well, so that you truly know what you've been accepted to and you can make an informed decision. Is this the right timing for you? If you decide that, I don't want to proceed with this, that's totally okay. Please let us know though. Don't just ghost us because that has happened a lot where students just disappear. And in the meantime, I'm still submitting your nomination. I'm still talking to financial aid, registration records, right? Because I'm assuming you're still in it. So please, if for whatever reason you decide you have to cancel, you have to decline, let us know. Um, Now is the time to continue doing more research on your program, like the location, the culture, etiquette, all that stuff. The more informed, the better experience you'll have. Um, Communicate with family, friends, community, right? A lot of students, when they come back, they do admit, like, oh, well, during the holidays or during my birthday, like homesickness was like a big deal. Like, we'll talk a little bit more about homesickness later, but already starting to plan for those times while you're abroad is a good idea. Um, if the CSUF Study Abroad office or the CSUIP team or your host university or your provider, if any of us say that we'll provide you with something or that we owe you a document, um, and we've already told you that we are working on it, sometimes you just need to wait, right? As we are assisting multiple groups of students according to deadlines. So I know a lot of times students will email me. If they don't hear from me immediately, then they email the S Abroad account. Um, I'm monitoring those two accounts. So either way, you're going to hear from me. I know same goes for the IP program. So please, again, just be patient and it's, we would really appreciate if you're just conscious that we are serving many, many students at once, and we're trying our best to get to you as soon as possible. Preparing for impact again, right now, perhaps like our initial interest in study abroad was the food, the language, the arts, the music, right? The culture, the pop culture. Great, that's really great. But then eventually you're gonna want to start diving deeper into like what is the like below, right? So the concept of time, the values, the norms of your host country, all of this again is just going to help you have a better understanding before you depart, and it'll help you have a smoother transition and a smoother experience navigating your program. So I know we spoke a lot, or I spoke a lot to you, but here is a summary of what our immediate next steps are. So by this Sunday, ideally, and if you can't commit by this Sunday, again, just keep me in the loop, communicate with me, confirm your participation by clicking that commit button on our CSUF study abroad application or CSUF exchange programs. Um, but remember, CSUIP, you might have different deadlines for commitment. Uh, but all of you need to click that commit button in order to have access to the rest of your CSUF study abroad application. Um, if you need to renew your passport, if you don't have a passport, that is something you should start on in the next week or so. Don't let more time pass. Submit your host university application on time. So I will let you know for CSUF Exchange, I will let you know when those details are ready. CSUIP will be in contact with you when their host application details are ready to go. Finances, I believe that's something that is always ongoing, right? Continue looking at scholarships, continue applying, um, continue fundraising. That is saving. So that process, I think, is continuing until you depart. Academics, so that transfer credit approval process is key if you want courses to count for CSUF equivalency. I really would push for all of you to start that process now so that you ideally have responses by May. And lastly, that post-decision application phase in our CSUF study abroad application, most of those items will be due by May 1st. But again, remember, don't worry if there's certain items you don't have yet, like the flight itineraries, program dates, that's okay. You'll have a lot more time before departure to complete those items. Okay, so real quick again, here's my email, absegura@fullerton.edu. I appreciate your patience if I don't get back to you immediately. It's been wild with Gilman apps, this deadline, application reviews. So I'm hoping to come back to my slower rhythm. You can also email sabrat@fullerton.edu. Unfortunately, right now we don't have a designated student helping me with that inbox. So I'm the one monitoring that. So you could email that or you could email me, whichever you prefer.